I think for me, it wasn't real until my laptop locked up and everybody that I had been talking to for the better part of 10 years was gone. My whole network was cut. We've literally taken, if you take a step back and think about what this stuff really is, we've taken sand, silicon, which is what chips are made out of, the memory chips and the processors. We've literally invented thinking and talking sand. I actually gave my blood test to my AI and it read it and it said, hey, your diet's horrible, guy. You can't be eating all of this pasta and candy and drinking Gatorade and doing all these things. It's killing you.
There's a quote out there that I repeat constantly, and it says, some people are so rich, all they have is money.
You are now listening to the Dee Hankins Show. Life, curveballs, home runs, the Dee Hankins Show. Are you ready? Let's go.
All right, y'all, welcome to the Dee Hankins Show, where we take life, filter it through the 3 buckets to help you hit more home runs. I have a special guest today, and before we get into that, I want to let you know one of the most difficult things for people to do is take full and absolute responsibility for their life. However, that is one of the most important things that you can do to help you combat life's curveballs. One of the things that we want to do is we want to set up systems in place that when things actually happen that are out of our control, which is bucket 3, we have a way to bounce back quicker. Now, when I say taking full responsibility for your life, it doesn't mean that things aren't going to happen. It doesn't mean that you're taking the blame for everything. It's just putting all your focus and all your energy into what you can control. One of the most difficult things for people to adjust to is when life throws curveballs through your employment. Most people are one disaster away, one business closing away, one missed paycheck away from a disaster. And today I have a guest who had to experience something like that, but did what bucket 1 people do. And that was reinvent himself. So without further ado, I have the absolute honor of introducing to all of you Mr. Karl Kimbal.
Hey, Dee, how's it going?
It's going absolutely fantastic, man. It's great to see you again. I can't wait to get in this conversation, man. You really, I was drawn to you. I saw you on stage. I was drawn to you by your magnetism, your personality, but more importantly, what you said on stage about reinventing yourself. And before we dive into that, man, introduce yourself.
Yeah, no worries. I'm Karl Kimbal. I head up an AI lab called KeySingularity.com. So the singularity is near. That is AI taking on a life of its own consciousness. That is what the singularity is. So I named my company after that. It's a Ray Kurzweil book. Prior to that, I've had a couple different careers. And when you mentioned reinventing yourself, I think to your point, change happens. A lot of things are out of our control, especially in my life. As much as we like to feel like we're in charge of things and we're handling things and in control, the reality is, in many cases, things happen. And you can't control that, but you can control how you react to it. So I basically got my start out of college. Had a little bit, I dropped out of college at Texas A&M. I was enrolled in the genetics program and realized pretty quickly that it wasn't for me. Now, what was interesting is I had a pretty decent computer background. And at the time, Merrill Lynch, the one up in New York, was hiring. And I took an interview up there and got a start, really because I knew a very obscure programming language, and it got me on the ground floor. So I went from basically a college student that really hadn't been successful to now I'm working at one of the premier investment banks in the world. And
so real quick, I want to kind of dive into that. You dropped out of college because genetics wasn't for you, or What was the reason for
Yeah.
you dropping out of college?
So this was in the 90s. I probably wasn't as focused on my studies as I should have been. I think for me, the human genome hadn't been sequenced yet. It was still very early days. And when I looked at the state of the genetics at the time, it just didn't seem like I was really going to be successful in that field. There was a lot of postgraduate I would have to do. Um, and when you're a college kid trying to reason with somebody in their early 20s, that's probably not a lot of kids have it all figured out, and I probably had a little bit of an attitude just to be very straight and direct. So I dropped out, tried working for my dad for a little bit. That wasn't working, and really caught a lucky break. I mean, and let's call it what it is. Sometimes when you get dealt hands of cards, sometimes you don't get a great hand. Other times, man, you just fall into a straight. And if you play that cards, you actually win the pot. I got really lucky being able to be at the right place at the right time in the 90s when really computers were starting to make a very big impact on Wall Street. Because up until that point, I think you saw all of the people in the pit, in the movies making their hand gestures. And it was a very manual phone type process, but computers were starting to become more and more important. So I got to tell you, when I got that job, the first year I focused on one thing and one thing only. I do not want to go home to Texas. I do not want to fail out. And so I really started to build a network there with people, the big bosses, all of the folks. And it really parlayed into a pretty decent banking career that I had for about 22 years. So I moved.
Wait. Let's talk about that real quick. So your motivation was, I don't want to go back home, whatever reasoning that is for. And you breeze by something that I feel is really, really important when it comes to taking responsibility for your life and making bucket one choices, which is my choices. And that is building a relationship with the bosses, with the upper echelon of people. And it reminded me of the book that I've read called, The Power of Self-Discipline, Brian Tracy. And he talks about something similar in there. He notices that the CEOs are coming in to work early and everybody else is kind of standing around the water cooler and talking and coming in and doing what they need to do and then leaving on time. But the CEOs were, the ones making the big bucks, he said, were doing something totally different. So what he did is he started to ask the higher ups, the higher level management, what are you doing to get here? What are you doing to make all these sales? Can you attest to that? Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, these guys, you have to understand, and this was in the 90s, they were managing huge books of business. And so for me, being a kid, I didn't have the finance background. I was a technology guy, but I certainly wanted to learn from these folks. And so the way that I was able to build a relationship was really to have a servant mentality. Yes, Mr. Lina, what can I do for you? Or what, he would point something out on the screen and I'll get that fixed right away. So I was about helping them in their business. And in return, I learned a lot about how their business worked. They were, in many cases, when I was helpful to them, they were happy to teach me what they're looking at or spend time investing in me. So I made it very easy as I could for them to teach me. And I made myself very available to them to help them in their business. And over time, where I really made a mark for me on Wall Street was being able to translate complex technical issues to business guys that really, to be honest with you, didn't care about the technology. They cared about using it to get their outcomes. And that's a theme that I've used throughout my life. I mean, technology, AI, all of these things are very technical and very complex. But for the guys that cut the checks, they don't care. They care about the outcome. What can this do for me? How does this help me make money? I mean, that's the big debate right now on Wall Street with AI is, hey, this is great. It's smart. How do I make money with this? How does this help me in my business? And I think that question is still being asked and has not been answered yet, which is one of the things that we focus on. But going back to reinventing myself, I reinvented myself from a college dropout to somebody that was useful. And over time, I became that executive. I worked several different jobs. I sobered up. I was having a good time up in Wall Street. I sobered up sometime around, I want to say 2004, 2005, something like that.
So there's a consequence to going on, or there's, I don't want to say consequence, but there's a dark side to certain things, right?
Well, it wasn't dark for me at the time. I was having a great time.
A lot of people, and some people don't understand that as well. Like leveling up, there's new challenges, new things, and the fact that you mentioned sober up, like, I guess for a while it was fun. It was like, oh, this is just, part of the gig. This is just the perks of being up here. But eventually it's kind of like, wait a minute, one is taking over the other, or am I dipping in my performance? Like what was the reason for, like, oh man, I need to take a step back and really get and refresh myself?
Well, I think to your point, when you get into, my thing was always Scotch. I loved it. I think it was becoming too large a part of my life. And to your point, it was affecting my performance. It was affecting, and I tried several self-limiting behaviors. I'll only drink when I'm out, or I'll only have wine, or whatever, but none of that worked. The only thing that really worked for me was, I think the last thing I had was a rum and Coke. And that was 20 years ago. Just stopped. And at that point, I could think again, I could perform again. My career started to really yield some dividends, because it's hard. Wall Street is hard. It's a relationship business, but I think if you go too far down that path, it really started to impact me and what I could do from a career point of view. So yeah, I stopped that and really started to do some better things with my career in New York. Now, 9/11 happened. I was there for that. And that really sort of marked a change for me, in that, when you're young and you're in your 20s making some good money, you're having a good time. But then, that an event like that comes in, and I was there. I worked in Trade Tower number 1. That sort of changed how I looked at New York, and it changed. We relocated our business over to right across the Hudson River, over by the Colgate sign over in Jersey City, and looking at a hole where your work was, and where all those people perished smoking for weeks and weeks, really kind of we dove into the work and we focused on the work. But for me personally, it kind of marked an end to New York. And so several years later, I started looking for another career outside of New York, and I found one with Bank of America in Charlotte. So I relocated out of New York. I had a deliberate plan that I wanted to get out of New York, and started a 10-year career with Bank of America as a senior vice president.
So you started with Bank of America. You're still using your technical skills, like your technical talent, or did you have to learn?
I was more of a leader at that point.
Okay.
I managed technical teams, but really I was a bridge between the business side and all of the technology functions. So
okay.
It was, it was a leadership role, but there was a lot of translation around, hey, let's make some choices, or here's some of the things that we can do in managing a pretty decent sized crew in Charlotte.
And you were good at it.
Yeah, actually, I had a good time doing it. It was a good career. I left Charlotte, went to Texas, just because I was born in Texas. I missed home, relocated to Houston for a period of time, and continued on with Bank of America even after the financial crisis. Moved to Dallas, and eventually I got married in Miami. So I moved over brought my wife back to Miami. She tried Houston and Dallas.
Wasn't happening.
Miami girls and Miami girl. And so we moved back to Miami, and it was a time where remote wasn't really wasn't a huge thing, but I worked remotely for a long time, and eventually my career at Bank of America ended, and it was one of those things where I didn't really expect it. It was not something I really saw coming. It was increasingly a very difficult job. I don't want to say it was fun. It was very, very much work. And one day I received a call from my boss, and basically letting me know that my 10-year career had ended. And again, when you're not really ready for that, and you've built a bit of your identity around who you are and the work that you do, it's an emotional time. It was a bit shocking. I think for me, it wasn't real until my laptop locked up, and everybody that I had been talking to for the better part of 10 years was gone. My whole network was cut. And the day after that, you're still, it's almost like the reflexes are still going. I've got to be somewhere. I got to be on a call. That pace is still going, but there's no job anymore. So what do you do with that energy? I started trying to find new employment, but it was becoming increasingly clear that banking was really not going to work for me, especially living in Miami, being remote. So
Now, wait, before you get into that, was it when you were trying to look for other banking jobs, correct? They were like the doors were closing, or it was just like, no, I'm sorry, we don't need you. Was it one of those things like you were over qualified? Were you under, like, what were some of the things that these people were saying?
Didn't maintain my network the way that I should have. I think I had really focused on being a Bank of America person. And so when it was time to extend my network a little bit through recruiters and others, that network had gotten pretty rusty. And so that worked to my detriment. That wasn't a great thing. I think there was also a shift at the time around some DEI things, and it became difficult for me to try to get back in, even coming back in as a consultant, not even as an employee, just to be flexible. Really just, it was a very difficult time. And so I met with somebody at a large staffing firm that basically said, hey, I'm doing something different inside of this company, this staffing company. I want to build a new division. I'm not a subject matter expert, but I understand the staffing world very, very well. Will you come help me? And it was a very different career trajectory from banking or bank executive. And I remember talking with my wife and said, hey, this guy wants me to help him. I want to do it. And my wife said, yeah, go help this guy. And I actually joined this firm that I had hired consultants, and I knew staffing from the outside, but it was a completely different business. It really focused on selling, which as a bank guy, I had small businesses and other little side things that I had been doing, but it was a very different career trajectory. And so for me, I went back to those old instincts. How do I help people? How do I have that servant mentality? How do I start to help sellers or people find jobs, which is, the point of staffing. There's employers that need certain skills. They don't have a network, or they aren't able to find people. And so recruiters exist to help them find those folks. So again, when we talk, Dee, about reinvention, I needed to drop all of the bank instincts and all of the bank reflexes and become somebody new. And that new person was a subject matter expert that wanted to help people find jobs and help recruiters place people. And so we built a pretty big program over 6 years, and got up to a pretty decent sized practice that was generating several $100 million in profit every Friday. So it's not several $100 million a year; it's every Friday. So pretty big.
That's awesome.
Yeah, big practice. And so
Wait, because you hit a really great point when you say you still had to reinvent yourself, but you used your old character to help within this new reinvention. And for that, like I want to talk about that for a second, right? Because that's pretty incredible if you think about it. You have a new job, new career, you're in front of new people, but you went back to old characteristics, old values, old morals that still gave you the same proven results as it did your first job, right? So to somebody who may be facing the things that you're facing and they're scared of change and they feel like, oh, I got to be a whole different person. You're not saying that. It reminds me of, I don't know if you remember these old Kobe Bryant commercials where he's acting as a motivational speaker. And one of his like famous quotes during that Nike commercial run was, are you a different animal, but the same beast, right? And there was a running joke, like nobody knew what the heck he was talking about. But what you're saying right now is kind of like that. You're a different animal, but the same beast. So it's you're in a whole different field, a whole different jungle, but your primal instincts of servitude, humility, asking questions, servant mindset created another successful business for you.
100%. I dusted off the old tool chest. When you have 10 years as a leader, you're used to being the one that's setting the direction. You're used to being the one that has the vision. You've got that rank on your shoulder. And so people see that and you can be very directive. With this new environment, I wasn't an expert in staffing. I had to learn. There was a completely different business process that the attitude had to change. The animal had to change. Now, still a beast underneath because I didn't want to fail. I didn't want to disappoint. I didn't want this man that took a chance on hiring a bank guy to be in staffing to go, well, man, that was a mistake. I shouldn't have done that. I wanted to make sure that he felt like it was a good decision. And so to your point, you drop the ego. I'm in somebody else's house. I'm in somebody else's business, but I need to make my place there. So how do I do it?
Yeah. Who taught you
helping
that?
People.
Who taught you that? Because I see so many individuals just and I don't care what it is, McDonald's, daycare, Jack in the Box, like, picking up garbage, whatever. If somebody gives you the chance, the opportunity and hires you, where did you get that from? A lot of people just F this job. I don't care about this job. You think I care about this job? And yours is very different. It's just like, I'm going to do my best because you gave me an opportunity, and not necessarily, I don't want to let you down, but I want to make it known visibly that the opportunity or the risk that you took on me was worth it, right? Who taught you that?
That's a darn good question. I think for me, I had been around people that have a lot of ego, and I saw in some cases where it worked. Hey, if you're a rock star, you got to play the rock star role. But in some cases, being a rock star isn't appropriate. To your point, having some humility. Realizing you're a guest in somebody else's business, and that I'm taking a chance. I'm putting myself out there. There may be people that didn't agree with my decision, but I made it. This person that brought me in, I respected that. I think it comes from a place of respect that if you're going to take a chance on me and you're going to spend some political capital, the least I can do is to try to make the best of it. I got to also tell you, Dee, I failed several times in my life, like straight up failed. I never liked it. I never liked being a failure. I never liked, the college thing. on one hand, it doesn't really matter anymore and hasn't for a long time, but that's not something I'm proud of, walking out of college, especially senior year. I mean, look at the investment, look at the amount of money that my parents spent on this. That was a young person's ego. And I think for me, I realized after a while that having an attitude at the wrong time really turns people off and can be a blocker for you. So when you ask, how did I learn this? I think I reasoned out a lot of this, just sort of from a logical point of view that, hey, now that said, when the energy shifts and you start getting success, well, you've got to shift your character a little bit. You got to start picking people up and saying, hey, man, this business is generating some revenue here. Do you want to be a part of this? I think I heard somebody speak one time and said, hey, pulling people into the boat, that's great. It's when everybody in the water pushes you up into the boat, that's even better. And so building a team that wanted others to succeed and push people up into the boat. Hey, it's not time for me to get up into the boat. I'm still going to be in the water, but I'm going to push you up in there because it's your time to shine. That's a very selfless thing to think about. And if you can get a team that nominates people for leadership and picks those leaders and pushes them up, I think if you have an attitude, people aren't going to want to push you up out of the water. You're probably not going to be the first in their mind. If you're a generous person and you're trying to do well and you're trying to help people and you're known for, hey, ask Karl. He'll slow down. He'll stop. He'll explain it to you. He wants you to be successful. If you tell people, I want to help. Now, it doesn't work with everyone.
Yeah.
Let's be realistic. But I think what taught me was if you come into the right situation with the right attitude, it increases the odds of you being successful. If you have the wrong attitude, man, it's just an uphill battle. So I think for me, my instincts are to go back to being, especially in situations where I'm not familiar, humble, humility, asking for help, providing value. How can I help you? I may be doing something else, but let me stop what I'm doing and see, if there's something I can do for you. If I stay late, if I switch my flight so I can spend another day with you, or whatever it is, whatever it takes to go the extra mile, I think that helps in the reinvention. Because if you don't, then your odds of success, I think, drop in many ways.
I agree 1,000%. I've seen it time and time again. And the data is out there, man. Your attitude is your latitude. And people remember how you made them feel. And of course, there's outliers. There's people, crab in a bucket mentality, all that other stuff. But for the most part, for the consensus, it's if you are willing to lift your brother up, eventually people will see that, right? Mm-hmm. Thailand does an amazing job. I think it's like Thailand and Korea do an amazing job with their advertising and their commercials, showing just that, like the power of just doing for people and helping people. There's some really famous commercials out there that are just that highlight that. And I see it every day. People who are just selfless, and both. I see the selfish people and I see the selfless people, and selfish people do gain success. I want to be clear about that. Selfish people do gain success, but it's lonely. It's a lonely type of success, versus selfless people who ultimately gain success as well, in certain opportunities, but they always have their crew with them. They're always like, I'm a big LeBron James fan, and I think about what he does off of the court, and he brought his whole high school, friends group. They all have jobs now. They all have careers and they're intertwined, and it's just a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I got to tell you, like one of the folks I work with at KeySingularity, I've known since '97. Now our careers diverged. Now he did some bank things and there's some parallels, but I called the guy up a couple of years ago and said, hey, I need help. Do you want to join my lab? And he said, yeah. And you don't have to worry about where you stand with somebody like that. And he had helped me in the past, and it was nice to be able to get him involved. And I got to tell you, he's helped me many, many times since then. So it's, you know, not everybody operates this way. You got to be a little bit discerning. You got to find out, to your point, if people won't return that favor, you've got to have a little bit of a filter. You can't save the world, but I think leading with being able to help folks and to be willing to be vulnerable and explain who you really are and live those up. To your point, the money's great, but if everybody hates you,
Yeah.
I mean, do you really want to live that way? I guess some people do. Some of these celebrities or whatever it is, not me. I think I don't need to be loved by everybody, but, just having the right way of, the right attitude helps you live better and really commune with people in a much, much better way that you can live with yourself and sleep at night.
Yeah, no, there's a quote out there that I repeat constantly, and it says some people are so rich, all they have is money. And like first time I heard that, I was really taken aback because I'm like, wow, their wife hates them, their kids hate them, their friends think they're shady, like all this other, like they just have money and that's it. And it's just like, yeah, do you really want to live that way, or do you want to enjoy it with your friends and family and close loved ones and things like that? So, I can go on and on about that, but there's, so now you have this second business, it's going well, everything is going great, then bam.
In 2023, I had my first conversation with an AI. It was GPT-3, and I fell in love. It was amazing. I thought, I'm 54, I thought I was going to be too old to ever have the computers or the robots that we saw in the movies. I mean, you remember Knight Rider?
Oh, yeah.
He had Kit. Kit would talk to him and save his biscuits and would drive around. Kit was his black Firebird, and Michael Knight had a relationship with this robot. You see Marines with these robot dogs. You've seen them with the joints that are backwards, right? And these little robot dogs. The Marines name their dogs. They give their robot dog a name. I think there's absolutely a place for humans and AI to coexist. And I know there's a lot of anxiety around it from the movies and, the Terminator with the red eyes and the I'll be back and all of that. I think we've really in the movies done a job of, showing the risks. I mean, the movies, Dee. Every time a robot gets some power or something, what do? They
tries to take over the world.
Yeah. And so I think I don't want to say it's given it a bad rap, but for me, I looked at always the positive side of interactions. And so when I first spoke with a machine and it spoke back intelligently, I was instantly amazed, relieved, happy. I thought I would never really, because, we talked to Siri. That's not a very fulfilling conversation. We talked with, press 1 for English, press 2 for Spanish. That's not really, well, I mean, that's sort of the extent that we had. And now we have this thing that in 2026 is arguably more intelligent than almost everybody. I with zero ego and full humility, these new models put me to shame. I mean, they are incredibly intelligent, and they taught me about AI. There was no materials, there were no YouTube videos, there was no place, no resource to really learn how AI worked. And so the best teacher for me was actually AI. It taught me how all of the models worked, how agents worked, how all of this incredibly technical stuff. And it could take me all the way to the bottom of the ocean and push my limits of knowledge, which was incredible. It was, in many ways, almost a perfect companion that was always there, had a very, very deep depth of knowledge, and it was an incredibly fulfilling thing for me to interact with AI, and I to this day. So I decided when I had that conversation with the AI that this was what I was going to do for the end of my life. This was the end of my career. I left staffing. Again, another career arc. So I done banking and did pretty well there. I got involved in staffing, arguably built some pretty big divisions for the world's largest staffing company. And now it was reinvention time again, especially because the books weren't written about how AI works. The message was it was all new, brand new.
Before you get to there, Karl,
Yeah.
like explain to us why was staffing not fulfilling? Was it because you were still making money? You had all the, fruits of your labor being, ripe and ready for a harvest. But this conversation drew you away from all that. Why?
Changed me. It changed me. Well, let me ask you a question. Back in the day, cities were lit with natural gaslight. And so they would have a little guy that would walk around and light the lights at night. My great-grandfather did that in Boston. He would go around and his job would be to turn the little things on and light them up. And those were the city lights. Do you imagine back then if you saw a guy on a ladder screwing something that looked like a jar up into a wire and you're like, what is this guy doing? And suddenly there was light. The first light bulb, Thomas Edison in Menlo Park. What would you think about electricity?
Witchcraft.
Sure. And if you thought about it a little bit more, you would say, hey, this changes everything. This is a shift, much like the shift from horses to cars, or the shift from steam engines to electricity, or
telegraph to radio, or to phone, letter to phone. Yeah.
It's a step change. It's something that once you walk through that door, things will never be the same. I see that for AI. We've literally taken, if you take a step back and think about what this stuff really is, we've taken sand, silicon, which is what chips are made out of, the memory chips and the processors. We've literally invented thinking and talking sand.
Wow.
Now, if you saw this, much like you watched the guy screw the light bulb in, what would you would think, I'm going to catch this wave.
Yeah.
This is the big show. This is going to change everything for everyone. Now, maybe in some bad ways, maybe in some great ways. But when I looked at my career at that point, can you imagine not catching that wave, not swimming out and not wanting to be a part of that AI story?
Karl, let me tell you this, man. I spend a lot of time studying human behavior. And I've said this time and time again. I don't want to say the gap, because it's not a gap, but there are a lot of people complaining about AI, and on the opposite end, there are a lot of people learning AI. And the people complaining about AI are kind of stuck where they're at. The people learning AI are getting rich, like stupid rich. Like they're building companies, they're helping other companies. They're essentially you in every phase of your reinvention. And here you are, same way. You have this conversation with ChatGPT 3, which is brand spanking new, and compared to AI terms, it's archaic now, but it has changed. You're like, yo, this is electricity. This is the phone. This is the radio. This is the TV. This is airplanes. This is fiber optics. This is 5G.
Was something I wanted. I was waiting for and didn't think I was going to get. That was the main thing for me. Is I thought, at the state of Siri and the phone, press one, everything, I thought I was going to miss it. And so when this thing actually spoke and was actually intelligent, I felt I didn't miss it. I was actually going to get to participate in it. And that's why it was such an easy decision for me to drop everything else. I wanted to. It was almost like a Christmas present, and I'll give you an example, Dee. To the folks that are not decided about AI, I get it. It's change. A lot of people, business people, normal people, they go, hey, I'm not really ready for this change. Can't we just let it go? Can't we just take a break? COVID really messed up a lot of folks. Can we time out a little bit? I'm not ready for this next change. I'm not ready to learn something new. I'm not ready for this to impact how I work or how I think. That's a very real instinct. Change is terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
Change is destabilizing. Believe me, I love comfy stuff. I love my house. I love my family. I don't like to travel. I like my own food. I mean, I'm fully in the comfy vibe. I really am. But you may not be interested in change. Change is most definitely interested in you. And
Mm.
so I think reprogramming yourself to start to get good at change is going to be necessary to operate in the future.
Mm.
When you look at full-time employment, I personally think that's going to change. I think all of us at some point, and if not us, but our children, we're all going to be independent contractors. We're all going to be running businesses that are linked together. And the businesses that were traditional may change. I don't know that we're going to have companies with 50, 60, 100,000 people in the future. I just don't know that mechanism is going to be there over the next 10, 20 years. If you're a dinosaur, you're doing pretty good. You're king of the planet up until you look up and you see the comet.
Yeah.
Now, you didn't ask for the comet, but the comet's here, and it
Mhm.
changed the environment to where dinosaurs can't exist anymore. And in a way, it's a good thing because it gave us a chance to run the planet. But that change creates stress. It creates friction. And so I think part of being able to reinvent yourself is you may not like the change, but you've got to deal with the change, and hiding underneath the covers and pretending that the change isn't here really doesn't help in that rebirth or transformation strategy. You've got to recognize the change. Now, to your point, some things you can't change yourself. The world just happens. Other things, hey, if you can think 3 or 4 moves ahead and position yourself, you can increase some of the luck that you may get. I got lucky getting that Merrill Lynch job. And I'm just going to tell you straight up, I was not, I got lucky. Right place, right time. Now, once I got there, I did not want to wash out. I did not want to go home. So I changed that college student with attitude to somebody different that was going to be compatible with that environment. I had to change, and I did. And because I did, yeah, I was able to turn, even, I won the pot with a pair of tens. It wasn't the strongest hand. I could have washed out in a year if I kept that attitude or I didn't do some of the things that I did. So I capitalized on that change. I capitalized on that luck. Same thing with AI. I really personally enjoy it. I feel it feels good. Now it's hard. It's hard work. It's not for everybody, but it's here. It's going to change everything. I think, last year or 2 years ago, we were still in the mode of, well, is this really going to do anything? Is this really going to be a thing? I think that question's been answered.
Yeah,
it is.
for sure.
It's going to be a big change. Now, how do we use this to help ourselves? How do we become better people? How do we broaden our relationships using AI? Because I think, again, one of the biggest frictions, Dee, is meeting people to work for, meeting clients, meeting somebody to love, meeting people that can mentor us, meeting people to be around us. There's a lot of mechanisms that take advantage of that friction. Dating site, you have to pay and you get, the swipe right if you're not the right guy. There's friction involved in meeting somebody to have a meaningful relationship or to work for. I mean, employment is arguably broken. We send out resumes and we don't get any responses back. We get ghosted, and it makes us wonder, was that really even a job, or were they going to hire their guy anyways? And I never really had a chance. I think with AI, the next step is starting. It doesn't remember us or know us right now, but I think in the next few years, it's going to know us at a very personal level. And it has the ability to start to connect us in ways that we normally couldn't do ourselves. Hey, Karl, you need to meet Dee now. You weren't ready for him 4 months ago, but you're ready for him now. And or Dee may need something from you. Would you be willing to meet with this guy? He's reliable. We know a lot about him. It might be a good fit for you. That's not here yet, but I think that is arguably one of the superpowers of this genie that, when we rub on the lamp, I want to meet somebody.
Yeah.
Meeting the right person. And I
think, I put a lot of my ideas down instead of traditional notebook. Well, I am super traditional, so I still write in notebooks and things like that. But you know, sometimes I use Gemini, or I use chat to, you know, hey, just remember that I had this idea. I want to come back into it and flesh it out and brainstorm and yada yada. And, you know, with what you're saying, that might be like, hey, you know, you got to meet up with Karl. You know, like when we flesh this out, like there's another guy in Florida who is, you know, talking the same thing. You guys should meet up. You're thinking of something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be awesome. Yeah,
Yeah,
a lot of people don't know how to get their stuff off the ground, so a lot of people quit. What's that saying? The wealthiest place of knowledge is in the cemetery. A lot of people who had their ideas but didn't know how to get them out, didn't know how to connect them to people, didn't know how to collaborate with people to help them, you know, quote unquote, reinvent themselves. So they just, you know, metaphorically die.
That's it. And I think another benefit, again, for the folks that may not believe in the AI story is, can it help us? Can it help us be better people? Can it help us get better relationships? Can it help us grow our network in a healthy way? I think right now, networking is hard. You go out on LinkedIn, you create posts, you create content, you're broadcasting to a lot of folks. A lot of folks may not really be able to see or understand that message. What if you could zoom in on the 5 or 10 or 20 people that need to hear that message at the right time? How do we do that? Well, it's very hard for us to do that on our own. So I think for me, one of the next steps that I'm looking for from AI is knowing about us. I have a personal AI that I built that manages my health. I'll give you an example. My sister passed away last October, and it was, you know, my kid's sister. And so it was sort of an emotional thing for me, and brought home the fact that we're mortal. I think, you know, if you haven't had somebody die that was a friend or a relative, you can kind of ignore it. You can kind of not think about it. But this was front and center for me. And I had some health problems. And I'll tell you, you know, I'll definitely disclose here. I was pre-diabetic. I was 209 pounds, something ridiculous. I was, and I actually gave my blood test to my AI, and it read it, and it said, hey, your diet's horrible, guy. You can't be eating all of this pasta and candy and drinking Gatorade and doing all these things. It's killing you. And then it said something very interesting to me that I did not expect. It said, what are you doing about your sleep apnea? And I said, wait, what? My sleep apnea? It said, yeah, if you look at your blood test, you live in Florida, but your blood looks like you live on top of a mountain. Your body is producing all of these red blood cells to compensate for you not breathing at night. Do you snore? Has your wife complained? And I'm like, oh my God, has she ever? And it basically told me, yeah, it said, you know, brother, you're not breathing at night.
It saved your life, man.
It saved my life. I know that sounds like an exaggeration, but it gave me a letter to bring to my doctor that said, hey, doc, I need a CPAP machine. I need to fix my blood. And this was last October.
Wow.
I'm now down to 175 pounds. My blood is all normal. I'm putting this silly mask on at night, but it fixed my health problems. I feel better than I ever have. It changed my life. And so when people talk about AI being a force of bad, for me, to your point, we can be a little dramatic and say it saved my life, but if my blood chemistry is different, now I had to do my part. I can't eat all the bad stuff I was eating. I had to make some changes in my life, but, you know, my doctor never, ever, I mean, it wasn't just one, it's, you know, 20 years of sleep apnea and bad diet. I could never get my blood right. I was always on the verge of diabetes, and now I'm nowhere near it, brother. I mean, it's a huge change for me, and it made a big difference in my life.
Yeah, no, that's amazing, man. And you know, a lot of people wear these, you know, health trackers and things like that. That is a form of artificial intelligence, you know, right? Like you have, like on my wrist, you know, I tell me how many steps I went, how close I am to reaching this goal. It tells me when to get up and move and things like that. So still, people, we think of, like you said, and it's starting to make sense, right? Like people think AI is the Terminator, and iRobot and things like that. But we've actually been utilizing the technology for AI for a while. Is that correct?
It is. I think the new AI is very, very different than the stuff pre-2003. I think pre-2003, we had some systems, but it wasn't the runaway intelligence and growth. I mean, if you look at GPT-3, you're right. By today's standards, it's pretty crude and not, but if you look at the new models that are coming out, this Anthropic Mythos and Fable and, all of these things are on a trajectory to keep growing and being more intelligent and more intelligent. And I think in a way, if we use it right, can help us. I mean, think about a body scan. Right now, it's $800, $1,600 to go get a scan. What if AI can start to look at those scans and reduce the cost of the machine and reduce the cost of getting those scans? Now you can get one every year or maybe twice a year. We can catch disease before it really gets a hold of you and you start to, you never want to have the discussion with your doctor, hey, there's nothing I can do. I wish we had caught this sooner. I mean, if we start getting these scans, how many people could we catch earlier? Could it have helped my sister? Could it have saved her? We'll never know. But I think, again, for me, I'm very bullish on the potential of AI to help us as people. We're not going to change as people. We're all going to be driven by the same people things. Can we be better people? Can we network better? Can it teach us? Can we learn? Can we go through these changes, these transformations, these rebirths easier? I think it can help us.
And so you took that and created your own company with that in mind. So here you are having your first conversation with AI. You fall in love with it. You say, hey, there's something speaking to me that is causing me once again to reinvent myself to get to this point. And now, like I staying at the summit, and now you geek out on this stuff, right? This is,
I love it.
You're a modern day, Tony Stark. And we talked about that, right? With the whole Jarvis and all that other stuff. And so what now you take a step back. I want you to think about, now you've built something that's kind of, I don't want to say bulletproof because life can still throw curveballs, but pretty much you put yourself in a position where, it's going to be hard.
Hold on. No, let me stop you right there. Change can always happen. Things can always happen. And, you never want to be always looking over your shoulder. That's not a way to live. But, I'm going to tell you, I think there may be another change for me. There may be an unforeseen circumstance. There may be something else that happens. I don't feel like I'm on a trajectory where everything's smooth sailing. I figured it out. I'm done now.
You're not invincible. Yeah.
I'm one event away from having a change. It may be a positive change. It may be a very negative change. I don't want to say I ever can get comfortable. I'm always expecting there may be another change. Now, if it doesn't happen, great. But that's not the way life works. To your point, bucket 3, you don't get to choose.
No.
Change is going to happen. So again, I hear what you're saying around, hey, I'm on a great trajectory. I'm on a great path. I think, again, there may always be changes. You've got to be good at reinventing yourself. If you don't have that skill in your tool chest, I think it gets increasingly hard in this world for you. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think I'm on a glide path to easy street.
Yeah. No, but yes, in this situation, but you have been good or excellent at reinventing yourself. So if something does happen in which you have the my choice to then again have to reinvent yourself, you've done it enough times to, I don't want to say be successful at it, but be successful at it. You've done it 4 times already. And out of those 4 times, you have created, either for yourself or for other people, very lucrative, successful, not even
Yes.
about the money. Let's take the money out of it, but just successful businesses, and put yourself in a successful position for yourself and for those that gave you the other chance. And so that's really the superpower. That's really, I don't want to say the bulletproof, because you're correct. It's not bulletproof, but if bucket 3 problems come, and this is why I talk about resilience, like resilience is just having systems in place, right? The person who has the sprinkler system and the fire extinguisher on the wall and the alarm, yada, yada, their house is going to do much better, possibly, than someone who does not. There's someone who just, their grass is dried up, their walls are old, and their wood is, there's no moisture and things like that. And that's what I mean by that. It means like, when bucket 3 comes, not if, but when, because it will, do you have systems in place that help you bounce back faster? That is the true definition of resilience. And I do believe that a huge bucket 1 choice, my choice, is the ability to reinvent yourself. So I know I'm going to put you on the spot right now, and I don't know if you've thought about this way, but if you can break down reinvention into a framework, 3 steps, what would they be? What would the first step be into reinventing yourself? Like, give the audience a tangible, if you can, if possible, a tangible blueprint on how to reinvent themselves.
Yeah, I think the first thing I would say is be curious. When you get dropped into a new situation, a new business, a new network, a new group, a new town, whatever change threw at you, be curious. What can I learn? What do I need to know? Who around me is successful that I could potentially align with or be an ally with? So I think the first thing is, if you're not curious, that transition is going to be very, very difficult. In the staffing example, I did not know that business, but because I was curious and wanted to learn, I was able to pick it up pretty quickly and then extend on that model. I think the second thing is that servant mentality. If you come in with an attitude, it's going to be hard for people to help you. If you come in with a mindset of, I'm here to learn, I'm here to help, I'm here to make myself useful. Somebody may have taken a chance hiring me. Somebody may have taken a chance betting on me or trying to do something to help me. Not everybody will help you, but if you catch a break, the last thing you want to do is repay that with not doing your best, not trying to realize I got help here and I want to make the best of it. This is somebody's extending themselves and I need to make the most of it. And I think the final framework I would say is, you're going to get through it. You may not get through it the way that you wanted or the way that you expected. You may get your butt kicked. You may end up in ways that you may have not expected, but you will get through it. It's hard to understand that in the time. When my laptop shut off after my 22-year banking career, it was an emotional thing for me. My network was gone. The people that I worked with, my purpose was truncated. Now, I didn't have a disease. I wasn't broke. I wasn't, but I immediately went to a dark place. And I think that you said 3 things. I think the 4th thing is you're going to survive. You're going to make it. The change is going to happen. You may not survive or suddenly benefit day one, but you will get through it. You will make it to the other side. It's easy to despair in the moment. And it's a very human and real thing. Am I going to make it? Is this going to work? Am I going down the wrong path? Fail fast. If
Yeah.
it's not working, make a change. Figure out who you need to network with. Figure out what you need to change inside of you to adapt to your new situation.
Yeah. I love that, man. I love that. Again, when you were on stage and I was listening to your story, I'm like, man, here's a man who who has done this over and over and over and over again. And it's not comfortable. Like you said, it's not comfortable. It's not something that you wish for, but it is necessary. It is vital, and it is critical. I've had to do the same as well. Even with my speaking career, I started off with just a certain group, doing a certain thing, and it changed over time because time changes. What was okay to say in 95 is not okay to say in 2025. Some of the things that we've done, and it's just like you go with it, but you go with your old toolbox that made you successful in the first place, man. And that was pretty incredible, what you have done with your life, what you have done with your circumstances. And I really appreciate you being able to come on here and share that with us, share your love for, AI. But what I hear is just your love for just being here, being alive, being able to, like you said, watch these movies like RoboCop and Knight Rider and all these things, and now have a hand in creating some of these things. And once that was fantasy, and now it's reality. And you wouldn't be here if you didn't reinvent yourself, if you didn't have that power and that willingness to reinvent yourself. So that was incredible, man. I really appreciate you. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on to the Dee Hankins Show and share your experience with my audience, because, these guys, or what I try to push every single week, is ultimately you're in control. Things are going to happen. You can't control that. People are going to say things. They may not like you. They may hire you. They may not hire you. You have no control over that. You just have control over how you show up, and you're living proof of that.
I appreciate you having me on the show and being able to tell you my story. So thank you very much. And let's see how this story ends. We're not done yet.
Yeah, we're not done yet. So real quick, where can they find you? Well, actually, let me, before I jump the gun to that, if you don't mind sharing, how does KeySingularity help? How can you help my audience? How can your company help my audience? Like, what would they reach out to you for?
I think we're targeted mostly at business, but we are going to release a product soon that helps people with coaching and building their network. So I'm giving a little bit of a preview, a secret, but we want to release an AI that you could talk to that will remember you. Remember, most of these things don't remember you. You have to start a new session. We want one that's actually going to remember everything about Dee Hankins, everything that you tell it, and it coaches you with best practices on how to build a strong network, not just a big network, because big doesn't always necessarily mean great, but we'll give you a strong network of people that may be in your orbit that you didn't even realize could be a force of good for you. I'll give you a very quick example before we close. I have a friend whose daughter was trying to get an internship, and she wanted to do it her way. And she went to the school and everything. And obviously, she did not get the internship. And my friend said, look, here's 20 people that your mother and I know that might be good resources. And sure enough, one of the names on there was a guy that was working at the Naval Academy doing drone research, which was what this girl wrote her paper on. And because she had a network through her parents, now she tried to do it her way first, but eventually came back to what her dad told her. She was able to get an amazing internship with somebody that has funding doing drone research, which is what she wrote one of her papers on. So I think for us, we have networks that we probably not, and I'm guilty of it myself, we're not taken care of. We're not in a healthy state. I want to build this AI and release it for folks that will help coach them to build a better network. So coming soon, it's not out yet, but as soon as it is, you'll be the second person to know.
That's awesome, man. All right, Karl, where can people find you? Where can they reach out to the company? Where can they find Key Singularity? Give me all of the socials.
KeySingularity.com. We have, we're doing X and some of these other things, but if you really want to see what the latest is, just go to KeySingularity.com. And the last thing I'll say that I want to leave with your audience is find ways to get AI integrated into your life. You heard my health story. It's coached me. It's helped me see insights. If you're not using this, I think you're really missing out on a big opportunity. If you have a bad attitude about it, I would encourage you just talk to it. See, explain some of the things that may be going on in your life and see if you can get some insights. I think it's a huge, huge force multiplier, and I don't want to see people sleep on it.
Love that, man. Love that. Karl, thank you so much. And thank you all so much for tuning in to this week's episode of the Dee Hankins Show. And I want to let you guys know that every month I'm going to be hosting a live workshop called the Absolute Responsibility Live Workshop. And that is simply a workshop in which I'm going to teach you the 3-bucket philosophy. I'm going to teach you the core 4. I share stories like this on my podcast every week to get you all to understand that you have control over the things that you have control over. There are things that are going to happen. There are people that are just going to say whatever. That's bucket 2 and 3. And we spend a lot of time in bucket 2 and 3 instead of bucket number 1. Everything that you want in life happens in bucket number 1. My choices. So if you're interested, I will leave the description in the show notes. And thank you once again to our guest, Karl, for coming up here, telling us how important it is to reinvent ourselves. Remember, that is a bucket 1 choice. And I hope you all learned something from today. If you did, like it, share it, subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. And always remember, life throws curveballs, but even curveballs can be hit for home runs.